A modern girl is nothing without her squad of besties, but don't let all the hashtags follow you. The hashtag Girl Squad goes back a long, long time. Joining us now is Geek Girl Sam Maggs, whose new book, Girl Squad's 20 Female Friendships That Changed History, will take you on a tour of some of history's most famous female BFFs. Welcome back, Sam, to What She Said.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back talking to you guys.
Yeah. Well, this is such a cool topic because it's spanning art, science, politics, activism, sports.
Yeah.
The girl squads in this book show just how essential female friendship has been throughout history and throughout the world. So what was the catalyst? What was the initial idea for this?
Yeah, great question. I previously wrote a book called Wonder Women, which was 25 women. That was the last time I was here. 25 women in the history of STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math, who had been successful and that we'd never heard about. But I realized when I was writing that book that my favorite stories were not the ones that just focused on individual women, but the ones where a bunch of women helped each other out in order to become successful. And I kind of started thinking, I think a lot in our society, women and girls are really socialized to feel as though we have to be competitive with each other instead of cooperative with each other. We sort of all suffer from this Highlander syndrome where we think like there can be only one, there can only be one female radio show host, or like there can be only one girl on the internet who talks about video games. So we feel like we have to compete with each other because we're never really shown, on purpose, examples of girl squads or girl team ups. We always see like a bunch of dudes and the one girl. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to write a book that would provide a great example for readers of the fact that women have been collaborating and cooperating all throughout history, all over the world, to create great change, and that we're stronger together than we are apart.
And the fact of the matter is that it's our nature to want to cooperate.
Totally, yeah.
It's not really our nature to want to compete with one another, I don't think, women.
I think it's a myth.
We're almost set up in a way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is catty by nature necessarily. You know what I mean? I think that we all, like you say, humans want to be a tribe. We want to be together. We want to help each other. And when we lift each other up, everyone is better for it. So I really want to encourage that.
Well, let's go through some of the women featured in this book, and you can tell us why they, in particular, inspired you. These two sound fun. Anne Bonny and Mary Read, an infamous duo of pirates who sailed the seven seas and plundered with the best of the men. Well, They inspire me already.
They were two real-life female pirates. Interestingly, I learned while writing this book that pirates, as we think of them today, really only existed for about a 30-year time period in the 1700s called the Golden Age of Piracy. So during those 30 years, there were these two, among many others, really awesome female pirates. And the cool thing about pirates is that they were democratic, they were socialists, they had disability insurance, and they accepted people of all different races and genders, including women. So actually, pirates were great, kind of, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because at that time, women were considered bad luck on a ship.
And on Navy ships, certainly, yeah. And also they had no sort of, if you got injured on the job, which a lot of people did in the Navy, tough luck kind of thing. People of color couldn't serve in the Navy. So this was really, pirates were a really democratized and forward-thinking group of folks who were sort of put through a smear campaign because people liked them so much that the English colonialists had to be like, no, they're bad, actually.
And then we have a pair of Parisian socialites, Jeanne Manon Roland and Sophie Grandchamp, who landed front row seats from prison, mind you, to the French Revolution.
Absolutely. These were two gals who, in the lead up to the French Revolution, started to look at America and England and think that, constitutions looked pretty good, maybe, and that's what they wanted instead. And so they started to run a series of salons, like you say, in Paris, that brought together all the greatest minds of the French Revolution. But many people writing at the time said that they were the smartest of the bunch. They just sort of chose to stay back on the sidelines and act as though they weren't really the ones who had the power and let the men think that they have the power, which is something I think we're probably all familiar with at one point or another in our lives. And unfortunately, Manon ended up losing her head for her trouble, but they were good friends right up until the end. So pretty inspiring stuff.
That darn guillotine.
I know, eh?
Okay, the Zora Orchestra. Now, they're from Afghanistan, and they became the nation's first all-female musical group. They must have been defying all kinds of laws and danger there.
Definitely. And actually, they exist right now. So this is like a very modern thing. I think a lot of people know that Afghanistan, with the Taliban and everything, obviously has a very troubled past when it comes to women's rights and civil rights. But what I think a lot of people don't know is that the Taliban also banned music in Afghanistan and the playing of music. So for these girls now, not only to be public figures with careers, but also careers as musicians is sort of a crazy catalyst for danger that they put themselves in every morning when they wake up and grab their cases and walk to school. And we're talking about 12, 14, 16-year-old girls. It's pretty impressive.
Well, you've talked about collaboration. Female friendship definitely is a thing. You talk about how many women pushed the boundaries, won victories, and did so because of and not despite other women.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were made better by having those besties.
That's absolutely right. You know, I mean, look at you two. I think that's a great example of this. I think that women we want to support each other. No one's going to make change for us, basically. So if we want to see big changes for ourselves in the world, we better stand up and make them, because otherwise, you know, what are we going to do?
So what was one of the coolest things you learned when doing the research or writing this book?
One of my favorite stories in the book, I really love the Zora Orchestra. I'm glad we talked about it. But I think another one of my favorite stories in the book is, like we were talking about, their sports squads in the book, athlete squads. That was really new for me. I don't really know a lot about sports, so that was kind of outside of my comfort zone. But it was discovering how these different groups of athletes, like, not only were very impressive in their own fields, but also served to change, in some ways, the political climate of the countries that they're playing for. I really love the story of the 1964 Japanese Olympic women's volleyball team, which you might not think a volleyball team would have any significant political or cultural impact. But in 1964, post-war Japan was trying to reassert itself on the world stage as a peaceful, technological, innovative power. And the pressure of that sort of like personal rebranding on behalf of the Japanese government fell squarely on the shoulders of this Olympic volleyball team in their gold medal match against the Soviets, with whom the Japanese also had a very difficult history. So it reads like a sports movie. Like, it reads like Rudy to me. So I think it should be a movie. Yeah, it's great.
So veering away from the book for a moment, what about your own personal life?
Oh, yeah.
Give us an example of a situation or something that you've done that you might not have done had it not been for a bestie.
Oh, probably all the work that I've done, essentially. The great thing I think about social media and the internet now is that we're able to find people with common interests and common jobs that maybe we might not have found in real life, quote unquote, otherwise, to form our own communities of, you know, nerds. Like, that's my thing. Like, I'm a big nerd, so I was able to find a community there of people who are making comics or making video games, who are women, who you may not have ever found in the real world, depending on the town you live in otherwise. So having the support of that great community that I found through the internet at pushing me to succeed and to do what I believe in is pretty cool. I feel pretty lucky.
And is that what you hope people take away from reading the book?
Definitely. I hope that anybody who reads Girl Squads realizes that women have always been working together to create change, and that we're stronger together than we are apart. Absolutely.
So where can people get a copy of Girl Squads, 20 Female Friendships That Changed History?
You can pick up a book anywhere books are sold. You can buy it online. You can buy it in brick and mortar shops like Indigo. There's also an audiobook that I narrated. So if you prefer audiobooks, you can pick that up from
cool.
Penguin Random House.
Did you enjoy doing that?
It was really challenging. I loved it, but it was... Perhaps I was naive in thinking that it would be like easy to do. No, it was really hard, but I loved it. Yeah, yeah. So
great. So for all the nerds out there, they can find you on social media at Sam Maggs.
That's me.
SAMMAGGS. That is pretty easy.
Yeah.
So you're everywhere. So what's coming up next?
I'm writing a video game DLC right now. So in November, if you've played the Spider-Man game from Insomniac, you can pick up a DLC for that I worked on. And keep your eye out for more. Oh, on December 18th, I have a book coming out with DK called Marvel, Fearless and Fantastic, which is an encyclopedia of all of Marvel's women superheroes.
Wow.
So,
how many? There seem to be a lot,
Did she bury the lead there or what?
Yeah. No, she's promoting her book.
That's future book. Yeah, that's next book.
And that's one coming out just in time for Christmas.
There's like
right?
more than 50 in the book.
Because I think that's pretty. They've got a pretty good ratio.
Totally. Absolutely.
All right, Sam Max, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, she's